I've been close to giving up, 'cause I was tired of trying. If I said I had no doubts, I'd be lying. It's hard for me to tell if I'm crashing or if I'm flying, 'cause you can cry for help without crying. Hello, my name is Sienna Loren, and today I'm going to walk you through a vocal mixing template that I made for you in Cubase LE using Steinberg stock plugins only. Only things that come with the package. Because one of my favorite sayings is use what you have, and that's what we're going to do today to get you a better vocal mix with Cubase LE. The way I have things set up in this template is going to get you on the right path to the mix that you want. Of course, the tweaks you make to EQ or compression is going to depend on the microphone you're using, the vocalist who's singing into that microphone and their performance, the character of the song and what you really want to go for sonically. So there's a lot of variables, but these are the tools that you can use to build the mix that you want. Let's start looking at the template now. As you can see, there's inserts here on the left. You've got an EQ in the middle, nice visualization of that. And then you have your effects sends. So as far as signal flow goes, we're going to want to start talking about the equalizer because our audio is running through the equalizer first before it goes through our inserts. So what we have here is a basic starting EQ that is going to make anybody sound decent. It's going to make anybody sound good and feel good about what they're hearing back in their headphones. A little bump on the top end, around 8,000. And then we're cutting 2 dB at 6,450, and then again having a what we call the low shelf at 333 hertz. You can also see here I have pre-filter that's cutting out low end 78 hertz. And if you right click, you can see the filter slope is 12 dB. You can do a harsher cut, but I find that 12 is a great cut. I don't want to completely chop off the low end. I want a gentle easing of the low end. All right, so now moving over to our inserts, the first one I put on there was a gate. What this is going to do is it's going to open and close based on the amount of signal that's being fed through it. So if you're in a room, if you're working in a collaboration with a bunch of people and there's somebody coughing, like somebody tapping or clicking a mouse like I am, what this is going to do is when you're going to hear that is when the vocalist isn't singing. And the gate is going to close so that sound does not come through the song. And then it will open up from when the vocalist starts to sing. You'll see here, you'll see on my vocal track I have some room noise. And when I press play, watch what happens to the gate. I've been close to get. As you could see in the threshold, it went from red, which means closed, to a yellow, which means it's starting to open, and then green, open. If I didn't have that on there, you would have heard the breaths, you would have heard the room ambiance, which maybe you want that as an effect, which if you do, just bypass the plugin. It's that simple. Next, I have a studio EQ, which for me balances out some of what my microphone lacks. So I like to add a little more top end because the room I record in and as well as the microphone that I record with introduce a lot of low end. So for me, I want to pop up some of that top end. All right, so after the studio EQ, I have a de-esser, which helps with the sizzles, the spice, the top, all of those kinds of harsh consonant sounds, which you might be covering your ears as I'm saying them. Some vocalists are more SC than others. Some vocalists don't need this. Sometimes you put on a de-esser and the entire vocal loses presence. It loses character. So you don't always need it. The same way you don't always need an EQ. You don't always need this. You don't always need that. So use your ears and listen. But this is something you can put it on there. If you like it, adjust the settings and you're on your way. Next, I have 2 compressors for you to choose from. They're both slightly different characters and how they handle sound. They're emulations of different classic compressors. Cubase LE comes with 3 compressors. I like this tube compressor and the vintage compressor for vocals. So the first one we're going to look at emulates an LA2A. If you want to do additional research on that, there's a lot of great
tutorials here on YouTube about this compressor and its sidechain abilities, but for vocal, this is what we need.
Staring out a window, sitting on another runway. If heaven's here on earth, why does it feel so far away?
When you adjust the setting on the tube compressor, the first thing that I usually look for is how much gain reduction is happening. Like, how hard is this compressor working? This meter here will show you the amount of gain reduction that's happening. Basically, you want to level out the vocal so it's less less loud and then soft, and more even throughout the mix, so you can hear what the vocalist is saying the entire time. The tube compressor has this drive knob, which adds a little bit more distortion, some harmonics.
Tired of trying. If I said I had no doubts, I'd be lying.
And lastly, I have a vintage compressor, which emulates an 1176. And here you can see the gain reduction above.
'Cause you can cry for help without crying.
All right, now that we've covered our equalizers and our inserts, now it's time to get into our effects sends, which I have named short reverb for effects 1, effects 2 is long reverb, effects 3 is a quarter note delay, and then effects 4 I have a slap delay. And these are what we're sending this vocal group channel to. All right, so for the short reverb, I'm going to put this all the way at 0. This right here is going to determine the amount of signal that you're sending. So when it's all the way left, it's not sending any signal to your effects send. When it goes all the way right, it's wet. For our short effects, we have RoomWorks. Here's a setting, 1.02 seconds. We've got some EQ, a lot of things happening there. This is just going to give body. It's very short reverb. Then I have 2 EQs, one where I'm carving off some of the top end because I just wanted more low end, didn't want a lot of top end there. And then I have this, which to me is a pretty standard reverb EQ.
I've been close to giving up, 'cause I was tired of trying. If I said I had no doubts, I'd be lying.
So you adjust the amount of send to that effect. Now let's go to the long reverb. Let's mute this one. Long reverb, again, RoomWorks. Long reverb is set at 3 seconds, and then I went through and I tweaked, the dampening, the envelope to give you, and then after that, we EQ the reverb. And the reason you want to do EQ the reverb is when you start to layer on, like I said, bass, more instruments, you reverb to muddy up where the bass and the kick are, and you don't want it to be interfering with your actual vocal performance in the high end. So that's what this EQ does.
Without crying. Staring out a window, sitting on another runway. If heaven's here on earth, why does it feel so far away?
All right, so third, I've got a quarter note delay. All right, well, we've got on the vocal quarter note delay, we have the stereo delay. And then a compressor, which is side chaining the delay to the vocal. So it's going to basically, it dances with the main vocal, meaning the delay, it's going to get a signal, but the compressor will hold the delay back until the main vocal goes quiet. And then the delay releases and you'll hear the sound, and the delay fills up that space where the vocal had been. And then when the vocal comes back in, the compressor pushes the delay back down, so you won't hear it as much.
I'm looking for a road that'll take me there. Everyone I've tried has led me nowhere. Even way above the clouds in a 747, I'm no closer to heaven.
So I'll use that as a delay throw. I don't normally keep it all the way up. So that's the quarter note delay. You can also change this. Maybe you want an 8th note delay. Maybe you want a 16th note delay. Go ahead and experiment with that. We have a slap delay, which is a shorter delay, 80 milliseconds.
Getting there at least a time or two. When I fell head first into my first I love you.
So when you combine all of these,
when it all went to hell, that's when I knew if heaven's on earth, then hell is too.
and there you go. We have done a quick, nice little mix of our vocal. The last effect that I have is just a bus. It's not really for the vocal, but it's more for your instruments. And you can play around with presets or whatever you want to do. I put in an arena here to give it a real gigantic space. But just like with the vocal effects, you determine the amount of signal for each instrument. And you don't have to feed everything through a reverb, but you can if you want something to sit further back.
I've been close to giving up, 'cause I was tired of trying. If I said I had no doubts, I'd be lying.
My camera just died, but I wanted to do this outro and say thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, get the template in the description below. If you make changes to the template and make it better, let me know. Let me see it. We got to make use of what we have. We are Cubase users. There's a lot of great things that come with this product. So let's use what we have and let's make great music.